Saltwater Orchard, Chapter 11. Richard. Richard trailed after Ryan as they headed down the upstairs hallway towards the front bedroom. He tried to forget how good it had felt to hold her, even for just a moment. It had been weird being around Ryan. On one hand, he felt like he knew her, but on the other, so many years had passed that they acted like strangers. Memories of the time they'd spent together kept popping up, but life had continued. It didn't matter what their past had been like. Maybe it would be better to just take some time to focus on the farm rather than a relationship. He needed some time to figure out what he really wanted, what mattered to him. He didn't have time for someone in his life anyway, and especially not a woman with a child. Although Erica was adorable, and that was a lot coming from him. He smiled as he remembered the rapid-fire questions from last night. Not only had she quizzed him about his favorite kind of jelly, but she'd forced him to consider what his favorite animal was, his favorite tree, and his favorite book. He'd tried to appear as if he'd known the answer to each, but he'd just picked the first thing that came to mind. Bear, maple, the woodbender. How good are you at making bread and the other stuff Erica mentioned last night? Richard let the question slip out before he could stop himself. Pretty good. Why? Ryan entered the first bedroom at the top of the stairs. He trailed after her. Just an idea I'm working on. Have you ever sold anything you've made? Ryan didn't even twitch at the rapidness of his speech. Erica must have gotten her used to it, and he was having a hard time controlling his ideas. They were crashing around his skull like a ping-pong ball. Sold it? Sometimes. I make it as gifts and to swap for things we might need if I don't have cash. Ryan's cheeks reddened. And sometimes I help Brenda at the cafe if she needs a day off. Richard thought she looked adorable when she blushed like that, and while he wanted to explore the idea of selling things like jelly and homemade bread at the farm, he also didn't want to spook Ryan again. He kept to his original idea. Do you think there would be a good market here for things like that? Like a farm store? And not seasonally, but year-round. Maybe. The Haven Farmers Market always seems to do well in the summer. I sometimes set up a booth there, and I'm usually sold out long before it's time to pack up. People seem to like that sort of thing, especially the tourists. What were you thinking of doing? Maybe nothing. I love the idea of getting the apple farm up and running again, but it's only one thing. What if I could bring in other people like you, and create a cooperative store, one where people could come in and sell their items in one place year-round? It was just something that sparked to life last night when Erica mentioned your jam and bread. Richard trailed off. He knew he could spend hours talking about the idea. It was how he processed things, and it was one thing Sloane had always disliked. It might work. I think you'll need to figure out how you'd stock things. Would people sell on commission, or would you buy products outright and resell them? There are pros and cons to each method. I agree. It's a lot to consider, but first we need to figure out what to do with the house. Bringing the conversation back to what they were supposed to be focused on, Richard asked, "What do you think of this room?" They were standing in what his uncle had always called the front bedroom. It had the best view of the dooryard outside. There was only a double bed covered in a handmade quilt and a dresser against one wall. A small rag rug in colors matching the quilt lay on the floor beside the bed. Of course, there was a small bookcase overflowing with dusty volumes. Other than a small bedside table with a lamp on it, the room was empty. Richard crossed to the opposite side, pulling open the closet door. Ah, that's where it all was. The closet was full of boxes. There wasn't an inch of space for anything else. He coughed and shut the door, dust filling the air. Found it, he choked out. Found what? Ryan asked as she waved her hands in front of her face. The clutter. My uncle held on to everything. I'm sure those boxes contain National Geographic or Popular Mechanics issues, something he was sure he'd need someday. Richard laughed as he made finger quotes around the last word. Ryan turned in a slow circle in the middle of the room. Erica could have this room. The only thing it needs is a thorough cleaning, and the bedding just needs to be washed. She raised an eyebrow at him. And I'm not going to the river to wash it either. Richard laughed. No, I wouldn't dare ask that of you. The electricity gets connected tomorrow. If there isn't a working washer and dryer, I'll get one hooked up soon. Is there a laundromat around here somewhere until we can get that sorted out? There is. Once my car is fixed, I can do laundry and groceries on my day off. I'm not asking you to do all that, but you'll need to get things washed to move in, so let me know, and I'll make sure you have the money needed to do that. I can afford to wash our bedding and clothing, Ricky. Richard watched as color once more started at the base of Ryan's neck and flooded her face. I haven't heard that name in a long time. He bunched his hands and shoved them in his pockets. He would spook her if he touched her, and if he were honest, he wanted to do more than just stroke her face. He wanted to pull her close and kiss her, thoroughly. He needed to get himself under control. So much for swearing off women for a while, but there was something about Ryan that just felt right. Sorry, I didn't mean, well, she wiped her hands on her jeans. What do you prefer to be called? Richard cleared his throat, not wanting to let the moment become more awkward. Either works. It's just that no one's called me Ricky in years. Changing the subject, Richard said, Come on, I'll show you the other 2 bedrooms and the bathroom. He walked out of the room and took a left down the hallway. He didn't mind that Ryan had called him by his childhood nickname. In fact, it made him realize how much he missed hearing it, especially from her. He'd adopted the use of his full name when he entered college. He'd wanted to shake off the past and start fresh. But maybe forgetting the past wasn't what he needed to do. Maybe he needed to remember the good things from before and see how it fit with his future, like the woman in front of him. She could be a bridge between the two. He liked that idea. He opened the door to the bathroom. He remembered the summer he'd helped Uncle Art build it. What had once been a 4th bedroom was now a spacious bathroom. Simple enough, with a vanity, double sink, a tub with a shower enclosure, and a toilet. They'd left the closet, so there was a place to store linens. Opening it, he expected to see more boxes. Surprised, he found there were still towels and sheets filling the shelves. Suddenly, he jumped back with a short yell. A small streak of gray raced across the floor and out the open door. Ryan shrieked and jumped practically straight up. Her head swiveled, looking for a place to land. She ran for the tub and hopped in before Richard could catch his breath. What was that? Ryan got out between panicked breaths. A mouse. It was just a mouse. I think we may have scared it more than it scared us, Richard chuckled as his pulse slowed. I doubt that. She continued to scan the floor. Where did it go? Do you see it anywhere? It ran out the door. I'm sure it's found a new hiding place. It's safe to come out. He reached out a hand to her to help her over the edge of the tub. She stared at his hand and then up at his face. If you think I'm getting out of here, you're crazy. It's safe, I promise. It's long gone. Improbable. Ryan, Richard couldn't help it. He laughed. That mouse was way more scared of us. We're giants in its eyes. Come on. He gestured for her to step out of the tub. I'll pick up some traps. Now that there are people living here again, it'll find a new home. She still hesitated before taking a slow step out of the tub. If that thing runs across my foot, I'm going to slap you. She raised an eyebrow at him, and Richard laughed again. Stretching out a hand to her, his heart bumped out an extra rhythm when she took it. I'll protect you, he said as he squeezed her hand. Then he couldn't help but tease her just a little. You know, mice can jump, right? That tub wouldn't have stopped it. Richard worked hard not to laugh again as she shuddered. I hate mice. Their little beady eyes and their little feet are so gross. Come on, just be glad it wasn't a snake. He let his laugh ring out as her eyes widened. He managed to ask between laughter, Where did the little girl who used to throw snakes at me go? She grew up. Still holding her hand, he tugged her forward. Let's go check out the other 2 bedrooms. He squeezed her hand once more before letting it go with reluctance. He tried to keep his mind focused on what they were doing up here. He should make notes about anything they'd need to make the place livable, not think about the gorgeous woman standing beside him. Except all he could focus on was how her hand had felt in his. Maybe too much. After all, it had only been a few weeks since he'd tried to propose to Sloane. He shouldn't be having feelings for someone else this quickly. But if he were being honest with himself, he knew what he had had with Sloane had been more about his career than his love life, and he didn't like what that said about him. Not at all. He followed Ryan as she walked out of the bathroom and headed to the next bedroom. His mind still worked on processing what his next move should be, not only with the house, but with Ryan. The second bedroom was like the first. There was only a bed, a small side table, a lamp, and a dresser. Once again, the closet was full of boxes, but the bedroom floor was clear. A quick clean would make it livable. This will work for me. That way I'll be close to Erica in the night. There's one more bedroom, right? Ryan turned and walked out the door, not waiting for an answer. Once more, he trailed after her. They soon stood in front of the door leading into the last bedroom. This was the room that had been his whenever he'd stayed at the farm. He wondered what it looked like now after all these years. If you used those two as bedrooms, you could set this up as a living room. It should be big enough for a couch and a TV. Richard tried to push the door open so they could go inside. The door moved an inch before stopping. What is it? Is the door stuck? Ryan asked as she tried to peer around him. He put his shoulder against the door and shoved. There was a scraping sound, and it gave way a few more inches, allowing them to see inside. He stepped back, mouth hanging open. Inside the room were boxes filling the space from floor to ceiling. They were all neatly stacked, but there was a solid wall of boxes staring him in the face. How his aunt and uncle had even gotten the last few boxes in there and shut the door, he had no idea. Wow! She squeezed past him and tried to fit through the doorway. She pushed her head inside but couldn't move any further forward. How are we going to get inside? I think I can take the door off the hinges. Richard ran a hand through his hair and turned to her. How much do you need a living room right away? She laughed. Not that much. We'll survive with just the 2 bedrooms for now. What are you going to do with all that stuff? One word. Dumpster. Chapter 12. Ryan. Ryan drummed her fingers on the steering wheel of the borrowed car as she waited for Erica to get out of school. It had been a busy day already. She'd spent the morning cleaning the 2 bedrooms upstairs so they could move out of the barn tonight. She thought she might be even more excited than Erica about the new sleeping location. While she loved her daughter, she was looking forward to having her own bed. And honestly, she couldn't wait to have her own room again. Sharing the small barn room with her daughter for the last few weeks had been tough. Stretching her arms, she let her head fall against the back of the seat and closed her eyes. Ryan couldn't believe she'd called Richard Ricky this morning. The nickname had slipped out. And freaking out over the mouse? She groaned at the memory. But she clung to his hand like the nasty little thing was going to jump out at her any moment and claw at her eyes. She shuddered. She hated rodents. After she'd finished cleaning the rooms, she'd strip the beds. The clutter in the closets and the 3rd room would have to wait for another day. Richard had disappeared outside after the mouse incident, leaving her alone to work. He'd given her permission to borrow his car to take all the bedding to be washed. While in town, she picked up more cleaning supplies and some groceries. Hi, Mommy! Ryan's eyes opened at the sound of her daughter's voice. Erica climbed into the back seat and clipped her seatbelt. Ready! Heading back to the farm, she tried to keep an ear tuned to her daughter's chatter about her day, but found her thoughts floating back to Richard. She kept wondering what it would have been like if he'd held her instead of just her hand. No one had hugged her, other than her daughter, in far too long. And then Remy told me I needed to be quiet, like he ever stops talking. Mom, are we homeless? What? Ryan's thoughts slammed back to the present. Who said that? Remy's mom told him we were homeless. Are we? No, baby, we're not homeless. She reached a hand over the seat and Erica grasped it. Ryan squeezed once before releasing it. Dread filled her at the sound of the word homeless and the connotation it brought. It wasn't like they were living on the streets. They had a roof over their heads, even if it was a barn roof for a few weeks. Maybe she should call and have a little chat with Sarah, Remy's mom. Not that it would do much good. Sarah was the biggest gossip in town. All it would do would give her a reason to spread more tales. The woman seemed to thrive on drama. Changing the subject, Ryan said, I'm going to need your help to get the beds made and our things moved. Are you up for that? Yeah! I can't wait to live in the farmhouse. Do you think Laura's house was just like it? I bet it was. I bet Laura had a bedroom just like mine. She laughed before answering her daughter. She was thankful her daughter was still so easily distractible. I doubt Laura had a house like this one, honey. For one thing, Laura wouldn't have had electricity. Well, technically, neither did they yet, but she was hoping it was on soon. Well, I'm still going to pretend. Erica turned to look out the window, humming under her breath. Before she'd picked up Erica, Ryan had swung by the garage to check on her car. The Rich brothers who owned it had diagnosed the issue as a busted fuel pump. They'd assured her it was easily fixable and it would be ready for her tomorrow. She was thankful the issue hadn't been worse. Pulling into the farm, she parked the car near the porch. "All right, help me unload everything, kiddo." Erica slung her backpack on and grabbed a bag of groceries, skipping into the house. She hoisted the laundry basket full of clean bedding on one hip and grabbed a bag of groceries with her other arm. She carefully navigated up the rickety steps to the porch. Thankfully, Erica had left the door ajar. Giving it a push with her hip, she headed inside. Stepping over the backpack her daughter had dropped on the floor, Ryan set the laundry basket on the couch. Bending, she snagged the bag of groceries Erica had left in the middle of the floor and carried both bags to the kitchen. Her daughter had disappeared in the few minutes it had taken her to walk inside. Sighing as she set the groceries on the counter, she took a moment to realize how blessed she was to be here. God was looking out for them, even if it wasn't in the exact way she would have wanted. God had blessed her. She knew this. There was no other answer. "Thank you," she whispered, closing her eyes and continuing her prayer in her head. "Amen. Now, get to work," she said out loud. She laughed. If Richard heard her talking to herself like this, he'd think she was crazy and kick her out. No, he was a good man. She was beginning to see that. Why else would he have let a woman he barely remembered from his past stay with him? A woman with a young daughter, no less. He could have kicked her out of the barn the moment he'd found them. Instead, he'd been working to help her. Turning to go back for the rest of the groceries, she jumped. Richard was standing in the doorway, covered in dirt, smiling his devastatingly handsome smile at her. "Oh!" Her hand flew to her chest. "You need to stop doing that." She let out a shaky laugh as she took a couple of deep breaths to get her racing heart to slow. "Do you always talk to yourself?" He raised an eyebrow at her as he walked to the sink. There was a jug of water there with soap, and he began to wash. "Only when I think I'm alone. Why are you so dirty?" "I'm working on getting the orchard cleared. There are a lot of down branches. Think Erica would want to help me?" "Maybe. If you tell her Laura Ingalls did work like that, she'll jump at the chance." "Laura?" Erica popped into the kitchen. "What did Laura do?" "See?" Ryan laughed at her daughter's timing. "Where did you go?" "Never mind. Richard wants to know if you would like to help him work in the orchard." "Yeah!" Erica danced around the kitchen. "Let's go!" Placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder to get her attention, Ryan said, "Not so fast, little one. You need a snack first. Let's get your blood sugar up a little before you go haul branches." She went over to the bags of groceries she'd already brought in and took out a package of peanut butter crackers. "Here, your favorite." She handed them to her daughter, along with a bottle of water. "Eat up, and then you can go help." While her daughter sat down to eat, Ryan asked Richard, "Will you help me bring in the rest of the stuff from the car?" "Sure." He followed her out of the house. As they headed down the steps, she said, "You need to keep a close eye on Erica while you're out in the orchard. I'll send more snacks. If she gets cranky with you, make her test her blood sugar. She knows how. If it's anywhere in the 70s or lower, give her a snack." Ryan was going to have to trust him with her daughter's health. She needed to make sure he understood the importance of monitoring Erica. Things could change quickly, and if he wasn't paying attention, it could be disastrous. "Sure, I can do that." He didn't seem fazed by the prospect of taking Erica with him. She wrestled with the idea more before saying, "Maybe I should go with you." "Ryan, you can trust me. I'll make sure she's okay." "I'm just a phone call away. Just be careful, okay?" She handed him 4 of the remaining bags and took the last 2 before slamming the trunk closed. Changing the topic, she said, "My car will be ready tomorrow. Can you bring me into town to pick it up?" "Sure. And I want to let you know I called the electric company. They assured me we have power, so I double-checked the panel. There seems to be a short somewhere and I can't figure it out. An electrician will be out tomorrow. I also have a plumber coming to give me a quote on updating the bathrooms and kitchen to something more this century." That will make Erica unhappy. She's loved living in the past here. However, I will be happy to have a hot shower. Ryan looked forward to not having to heat water to sponge off or use baby wipes to clean up. He laughed as he turned to bring the bags inside. "I just wish my list of things to fix was getting shorter and not longer." She followed him. What he was taking on here was huge, and getting the house updated was only the beginning. She didn't even know what needed to be done in the orchard to get that producing again. Dumping the bags on the counter, she laughed at her daughter. While they'd been outside, Erica had finished her snack. She was hopping from one foot to the other while chanting, "Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!" Richard rumpled Erica's hair and laughed. "Give your mom a minute to get things ready, and then we'll go work." Ryan quickly added some juice boxes and fruit snacks to her daughter's backpack, all the while working to keep her heart from swelling with emotion at how Richard treated her daughter. He didn't act like she was fragile. He seemed to enjoy having her with him. Otherwise, why would he have invited her to go help him in the orchard? It felt, it felt like what things might have been like if Eric had lived. A complete family. Swallowing hard to stem her rising emotions, Ryan handed the backpack to Erica. "Keep this with you, honey. Test your sugar in about an hour, okay? Be safe and listen to Mr. Richard." "Okay, Mommy. Bye." And with that, she watched her daughter skip out of the house, holding Richard's hand. He tossed a dazzling smile over his shoulder before they both disappeared out the door. She found herself alone in the house. She shook her head at herself. She was being ridiculous if she thought he would want to get involved with someone like her, no matter how he seemed to feel about Erica. What man wanted to start a relationship with a single mom with a 7-year-old who asked a million questions? What kind of man would want an instant family like that? Turning, she leaned against the counter and let out a shaky laugh. She was in so much trouble because there was a kernel of hope growing inside her that was hoping Richard was exactly that kind of man. He was worming his way into her heart, just like he'd once done all those years ago.